For over 100 years, copper has run the wires in your walls, the cables under your streets, and the grid that powers your whole city. Now a lab in China has built a carbon fiber that beats copper on the one number that actually matters for weight and strength. But before you believe copper is finished, you need to hear what this fiber still cannot do, because that gap is bigger than most headlines admit. Copper became the king of electricity for a simple reason. It was never the best conductor on Earth. Silver actually beats it. But silver costs far too much to string across a whole country. Copper struck the right balance of good conductivity, low cost, and the ability to bend without breaking. That balance kept it in charge for over a century, and nobody had a real reason to replace it. That is starting to change because copper is running short. A study by S&P Global, published in January 2026, found that global copper demand is on track to hit 42 million metric tons by 2040. That is a 50% jump from where things stand today. The same study said the shortfall between how much copper the world needs and how much can be mined could reach 10 million metric tons by 2040. Copper prices already jumped 41% in 2025, the biggest single-year rise in more than 10 years. The reason is simple. Electric cars use about 3 times more copper than gas cars. Offshore wind turbines each need several tons of it. Data centers built for artificial intelligence need copper in every cable and every cooling system. And new mines take 10 to 15 years to go from discovery to production. So there is no fast fix. This is the moment a Chinese science team stepped in with something that sounds impossible. At the Shenyang National Laboratory for Material Science, part of the Institute of Metal Research under the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Liaoning Province, researchers spent years trying to solve a problem that had stumped scientists everywhere since 1991. That year, scientists discovered the carbon nanotube, a tube of carbon atoms rolled into a cylinder about 1 nanometer wide. For comparison, a human hair is about 100,000 nanometers thick. A single nanotube is about 100 times stronger than steel of the same size, and it can carry electricity better than almost anything humans have built. Here is the part that kept this material stuck in labs for over 20 years. 1 nanotube is amazing on its own. But when scientists tried to bundle thousands of them into a real fiber you could actually use, the tubes clumped and lost contact with each other. Together, they fall apart. The team at Shenyang finally cracked that problem. They took an existing method called dry jet wet spinning, where nanotube material gets pulled through a small air gap and then dropped into a bath that hardens it into a fiber. That single fix is what changed everything. In 2023, the team published a paper in the journal Ax Nano showing a fiber made of nanotubes coated in a thin layer of copper. That fiber hit a specific conductivity 56% higher than pure copper wire. In 2024, the same lab produced a pure double-walled carbon nanotube fiber with a conductivity of 1.1 times 10 to the 7th Siemens per meter. That is roughly 1/5 of copper's raw conductivity. But remember, this fiber weighs a fraction of what copper weighs. The tensile strength came in at 1.65 gigapascals, which matches or beats high-strength steel cable. Then, in April 2026, an international team published new results in the journal Science. By adding a chemical dopant to the fiber, they pushed conductivity to 2.415 times 10 to the 8th Siemens per meter. It is only getting stronger. So the real question is not whether copper's reign is over. It is how many years are left before the metal that built the modern world finally meets a rival strong enough to take its place. Apple just got terrible news. Huawei launched a new phone that costs half the price of an iPhone and beats it on almost every spec that matters. Inside sits 2 brand new chips, the Kirin 9020A and the Kirin 9020B, chips built entirely inside China after America tried to cut Huawei off from chip technology forever. This is the phone causing real panic inside Apple's offices right now. And the story behind it is bigger than one smartphone launch. On November 6, 2025, Huawei opened pre-orders for the Mate 70 Air. Sales officially began on November 11, the same day as Singles Day, China's biggest shopping event of the year. That date was not picked by accident. Huawei wanted every eye in China on this phone during the 1 week when the whole country is already spending money. The price is where this story gets interesting. The Mate 70 Air starts at 4,199 yuan. That converts to about $580. For that price, buyers get a titanium frame, a 7-inch display, and a battery bigger than almost anything Apple has ever made. The iPhone 16 Pro Max costs more than double that price for a smaller screen and a smaller battery. Now here is the part that should not even be possible. The Mate 70 Air measures just 6.6 millimeters thick. That makes it the thinnest phone in the entire history of Huawei's Mate lineup. Normally, a thinner phone means a smaller battery. Every phone company on Earth has struggled with that trade-off for years. Huawei ignored the rule completely. Inside that thin body sits a 6,500 mAh battery. The iPhone 16 Pro Max carries about 4,400 mAh. That is a massive gap, and Huawei's phone is still thinner. The frame is built from aerospace-grade titanium, the same material Apple charges extra for on its Pro phones. It is covered in Kunlun glass for scratch protection and rated IP68 and IP69, meaning it survives dust, water, and daily abuse. The whole device weighs 208 grams. Flip it over, and the screen is a 7-inch AMOLED display. It runs at 120 Hz, hits 4,000 nits of peak brightness, and shows a resolution of 2760 by 1320. Compare that to the competition. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has a 6.9-inch screen. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra sits at 6.8 inches. Huawei just built the biggest screen in the flagship conversation and wrapped it inside the thinnest body on the market. But the screen and the battery are not even the real headline. The real headline is what is powering this phone. Huawei did not use one new chip. It used two. The 16GB memory model runs on the Kirin 9020A. The 12GB model runs on the Kirin 9020B. Both chips are made by SMIC, a Chinese chip maker, using a 7-nanometer process called N+2. Both chips are fully domestic. No American parts. No foreign supplier that Washington could shut off with one phone call. This matters because of what happened back in 2019. That year, the United States cut Huawei off from American chip technology completely. Experts said Huawei's phone business was finished. Many predicted it would take China more than a decade to build advanced chips on its own again. Then, in 2023, Huawei released the Mate 60 Pro. Inside was a real 7-nanometer chip called the Kirin 9000s, built entirely by SMIC without a single piece of band equipment. It shocked chip experts around the world. The Mate 70 Air is the next step in that same story, proving it was not a one-time trick. Here is where things get even more uncomfortable for Apple. Huawei has been rebuilding its position inside China, its home market and one of the biggest smartphone markets in the world. Every point of market share Huawei gains inside China is a point Apple loses. And Chinese buyers are no longer choosing Huawei out of pity. So can Apple respond? That is the real question here. Apple has spent years selling smaller batteries, thicker bodies, and higher prices as the cost of premium quality. The Mate 70 Air just broke that argument in half. Huawei is proving a phone can be thinner, hold more battery, and cost less at the same time. There are real limits still holding Huawei back outside China. The Mate 70 Air runs HarmonyOS, Huawei's own operating system, which has no Google Play Store, no Gmail, and no YouTube built in. So this is not a global takeover yet. It is a China-first move, aimed straight at China first. But remember the number from the start, $580. That is what buyers in China are paying for a phone with a 6,500 mAh battery, a titanium frame, and two brand new domestic chips built without a single band part. Apple cannot fix this problem with a software update. Apple cannot fix this with a marketing campaign. The only way to compete with a phone like the Mate 70 Air is to build something that matches it, and right now, nothing in Apple's lineup does. The Kirin 9020A and Kirin 9020B are proof that the plan to slow Huawei down did not work the way anyone expected. Every restriction pushed the company to build everything itself: the chip, the software, and the ecosystem around it.